I think we are live on Facebook.
Yeah, cool. All right, great. Okay, thank you so much, Mastin, for being here today. It's an absolute honour, and I've got to say, I've got so much to discuss with you. I'm really excited.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and super excited and honored. And the Best You in LA is going to be amazing. And thank you for having me. And I'm just totally jazzed. So it's mutual admiration society here.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, for my tribe, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Well, for my tribe and your tribe, I'm Bernardo Moya. I'm the founder of the Best You, and well, I've been running events in London for quite a long time. I've been working with Richard Bandler for 10 years, and Paul McKenna. I've been their promoter. I came quite late into this, 12, 13 years ago, and I came in through NLP. But 5 years ago, I thought there was something missing. Something didn't make sense to me. It was a bit incongruent when it came down to a lot of people that weren't really, congruent with their message and the way they actually preach and talk, let's say. So I thought, I would really like to come up with a platform that's fresh, that's unique, that's new, that we're hopefully multi-platform, magazine, expos, online, TV. And here we are anyway. So 5 years in to the Best You brand. And after running these events in London, I'm coming to Long Beach. And for my tribe now, I'm going to do a very quick introduction on Mastin Kipp. Now, some of you might not know who Mastin is. And my first comment is, where have you been? Because, I came across him quite a few years. And I'm going to read very briefly, but he's a #1 best-selling author, speaker and creator of the Function Life Coaching. For people who are seeking rapid transformations in their lives. He's been featured in the Emmy Award show Super Soul Sunday and recognized as a thought leader of the next generation by Oprah. He's literally spoken all over the world to more than 2 million people in 100 countries. And a mutual friend of ours, Gail Kingsbury, when I said, hey, I want to bring the Expo to the US, I said, I said, well, who can we get? He said, I could pick Mastin, of course. Don't play with me. I said, I want Mastin. I remember I was actually in LA. It meant to happen. It was serendipity. I believe in that.
Yeah, that was a great story.
I was just in LA and we met and I think we got on really, really well. And so for my tribe, my NLP community, all the people in London, and I'll talk a little bit about that because I'm going to bring Mastin to London. There's no negotiation here.
I'm in.
But look, there's a lot of people in the industry that walk their talk, okay? And there's a lot of people that just literally are repeating, copying, modeling other people and don't come up with any new ideas. There's nothing fresh. And then, you know what, off the stage, I mean, the egos don't fit in the rooms. And it's just, it's disappointing, as a promoter, I got to say it's disappointing. So when I met Mastin and kind of what his message is all about, I was just delighted to kind of work with him and have the opportunity to work with him. You're so great and so fresh. So as I said, I'm very honored, very blessed. Thank you for being part of the Best You Expo.
Well, Bernardo, I appreciate that. That's a lot to live up to. I'm gonna do my best. But yeah, no, I'm jazzed, and I feel the exact same way. I came out of the music business, entertainment industry into this space, and thinking to myself, personal development people, like they're gonna be amazing, and there are some incredible folks. I have a lot of great folks and friends in this, but the billboard and that type of stuff, it's always interesting, and I'm just excited because we're gonna do great stuff, and the work that you're doing at NLP, and I mean Richard Bandler is a legend and someone who I would say is, I'd call my great grandfather almost in a sense, because of like what they've been doing and how incredible that whole modality is. So I'm just jazzed to be here and happy that any value that I can. I'm just excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I want it to be kind of like a little bit kind of like for those, as I said, again, amongst my tribe, kind of what you do and what you've done. So my first question to you is because I'm on I get your podcast. I listen to your podcast. I get your newsletters, and I know what you do. Do you ever sleep? When was the last time you slept?
I do sleep. I typically am in bed by about 10, and I'm up between 4 and 5 usually. And I can talk about how I've been able to optimize my sleep, but I'm getting some incredible high quality sleep, and I can do about 6 or 7 hours a night and be awesome. So I can talk a little bit about how I've done that, but yeah, sleep sort of gets in the way, but you need it, Yeah,
because I see you up at 4 or 5 in the morning and you're meditating and you're doing so many great stuff. So, I mean, part of what you teach and what you do is having that amazing energy, because you seem to have amazing energy. How do you do it?
Well, I think, the overarching idea is that there's sort of, I mean, anytime someone draws a Venn diagram, it's like they know something, right? But like it's just two circles. But there's a Venn diagram between problems in the world and sort of what you're really good at. And I do my best to kind of be aware of like what am I pretty good at, and then what are the problems that I love to solve. And the thing that gives me the most energy is when I'm waking up solving problems with great people who are just really lit up to solve problems, and I feed off of that energy. So to me, I think that's one of the most important things, followed very quickly by I have a very personalized nutrition program because of a company called Viome, Viome. The most cutting edge microbiome testing company, and they're able to tell me exactly what I need uniquely for my body, and that's just completely changed the game for the energy in my life. And also, I think just being able to have clients and be able to serve people, like I get lit up by that. It's exciting to me to see people change and transform. So for me, it's just I feel like really blessed to be able to be of service, to solve problems, to be around people who are excited to do the same. And then I get to share this with the incredible love of my life, Jenna, and we own this business together. And she coaches with me and she does sales. So we're just sort of all really like lined up. And there's bumps in the road all the time. But I think just generally, I like the people I'm hanging out with. I like the problems that I'm solving. And I get to do stuff that I'm really good at. And I've done a really good job in the last year of really understanding what I'm not good at and doing less of that and figuring out systems and teams to help have someone else do that stuff. So I can kind of like focus on what I'm best, most good at basically. So it's been a process.
Well, and it is, but one of the things is as you just said, is I think a lot of people try to do everything on their own, and it's difficult, isn't it? When it comes down to learning new things, when it comes down to getting advice, that's the importance of the coach, so the importance of a mentor, and the importance of having a team around you. And I've learned that with the years. It's taken me a long time as well to understand kind of the importance of having a great team around you. So with you personally, and kind of the first book that I came across with you, which was Your Daily Love. Tell me, what did that book mean to you, and where did it come from when you wrote it?
It's a great question. So that's a book I wrote I was not even 30. I wrote my story, which seems a little kind of like at first glance, like, why is this kid writing a book about his life? But it was a very intentional decision because I have lots of different how-to books that I can write. But I think in terms, because I come from the music business, I think in terms of career span. And I thought, like, this is what I'm going to be doing with my life for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I want to do it for the rest of my life. And a time will come in my future where I will have been doing what I'm doing longer than when I was going through the struggles. And I wanted to capture the early days of what it was like, couch surfing, doubting myself, following little tiny moments of synchronicity or little tiny, kind of like confirmations that I was on the right path, even though there was so much doubt. Because when I first got started, what was really valuable, like I love Tony Robbins. The most valuable thing I've ever learned from Tony Robbins is that 500 square foot bachelor pad apartment, Venice, California story. All the other stuff is wonderful and I implement it and I use it, but that was amazing to me because I was at the beginning. Or Eckhart Tolle, when he first got started, he was almost suicidal and he won the lottery. And like how people that do what I do coped with or broke through from like sort of like a job, a normal, into what they're doing, like that magical transition, that gap period, I wanted to capture it while it was fresh so that in the future, when people were working with me, or I could go back and remember it, because I think as you get further away from stuff, you sort of forget where you were in the mindset or what you were going through. And so it was written for future people who find me in 20 or 30 years and want to understand essentially where this kid started. Because I always found the origin stories to be very interesting and very fascinating and very helpful.
Now, you mentioned a few names there, Eckhart Tolle, Tony Robbins. Who inspired you kind of like to get into kind of what you do now and gave you kind of some clarity and some inspiration?
I would say it's all Tony's fault, 100%. Because before Tony, to me, personal development was something that I was working on with myself. When I went to my very first Tony Robbins seminar, I thought, holy cow, this is fun, energetic, and somehow he's saying the word fuck and everybody's laughing and they're not mad at him. It's not creepy. Like, what is going on here? Like, what's happening? How can someone, because I have inappropriate humor and I like to kind of like break patterns. I didn't know that's what it was early on. I just thought it was just inappropriate. But he was able to like do this like kind of like instigative stuff that I like love to do, but like to help people, and people loved it and served it, and it really served them. So I thought like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because I came from the music business and the rock and roll business. And so before Tony, it was like, I'm going to use this stuff to apply it to my life. When I saw what Tony was doing, I thought, that's effective. Whatever he's doing with people, this intervention thing, I want to learn about that. And how is he like getting so many people excited, and this, how could he create that? And so after my very first UPW, I went very quickly to Date with Destiny, completely changed my life, and basically said, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I have to do this. I'm fascinated by intervention. I'm fascinated by neurolinguistic programming and neuroassociative conditioning. And I'm fascinated by just this whole conversation, because to me, it's like very practical, pragmatic, real. And it's a very good grounding modalities compared to sort of the spiritual modalities, which can be a little bit more esoteric, which is awesome. But these modalities were so grounded and so practical. And it kind of like when especially when I got into NLP and learning about it, I'm not certified, but I've obsessed with it. Like, it kind of like when I hear like, Bandler or Grinder or any of these guys talk, or like, I look at like one of their first books, The Prince, Frog the Prince, like they were like speaking how I think, but I never thought to articulate it. And so I felt like I had found like, these people who were like, oh, yeah, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time, but they did a way better job of it. And so it's just been one thing after the other, but 100% without Tony Robbins, I'd probably just, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I wouldn't be doing this.
Well, it's amazing. But I mean, so many of us have been in that journey where, you've attended a course, and that's kind of where, what I think, the beauty of what we do, and all of us that are in this industry, is that you just never know where you're going to get that golden nugget, or that turning point is going to come in your life. And sometimes it's as simple as a quote. It could be a book, it could be a TED talk, it could be an event that you attend. I mean, for me, obviously, I will say that there's nothing like attending an event live.
Yep.
You have to go to these. I mean, there's so much you can learn in a book. But,
Agreed.
for me, it was the same. I mean, when I did my NLP training, and I went there exclusively for selfish reasons, which were professional reasons. I wanted to get my sales team to sell more, to build better rapport, and to build, to create better communication skills with my clients so they could sell more. I had 25 employees at the time.
Totally.
And that's what I went for. And I'm standing in the middle of the room day one. Now, I was very, very, very kind of like skeptical. So because I'm standing at the front of the room and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, 300 strangers, all these guys. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be all this high five and all this. And I thought, I'm not one of those guys. I can't do that, So I was very skeptical, but there I was standing in the middle of the room. And then day one, I'm thinking, interesting. Day two, Day three, I'm going, oh my God, why am I learning these things now? And that was it. And I do remember at the end of day 7, which I didn't want to leave, I'm literally holding onto the frame. I didn't want to leave the seminar room. And then there I am thinking, I want to do something different. I want to empower people. I want to be, because I am Spanish. So originally my plan was to write, I said, I'm going to be the good looking version of Paul McKenna for the Spanish speaking market. That was my plan. That's how I got into it. And it's safe to say how I got into that book, how I got into that course with Paul McKenna's book, Change Your Life in 7 Days. So it's safe to say that a book can definitely change your life. Here I am, 12 years later, I'm working with all these greats, promoting. Yeah. So it does happen. But yeah, listen, thanks for sharing that. And you're talking about swearing. Oh my God. I mean, Bandler says a few swear words as well. So
totally. No, I mean, it's amazing because it's all context, and I mean, when you get down to why they do it, it makes a lot of sense. But I was like, finally, someone I can fucking hang out with, is awesome, like, geez.
I know, but then you get some people saying, does he have to swear? I said, out of everything that he's taught this morning, is that what you've got? Because what you focus on expands. And really, the moment you start seeing that there's a reason behind, as you said, everything and anything that they do, and you look at them working, that it all falls into place. So thank you for sharing that about your book. Now, I want to talk about other things as well, but let me jump into your next book, Claim Your Power, which has had amazing reviews. It's absolutely fantastic. You must be really proud. So tell me about it.
Well, yeah, and thank you. I delayed putting it out for about 1.5 years because I was very nervous about it because I was starting to get actually Tony comparisons. And Tony's a friend of mine, and not only that, a mentor and just a legend. And I spent a lot of time thinking through, I don't want to just be Tony Robbins' X copy. So I spent a year researching and understanding what differentiates me from Tony or Brendan or any of the other people who are sort of out there doing these types of things. What differentiates? I've had questions. What's the difference between NLP and functional life coaching? I've had to have those questions, and so I took time to actually delay putting my stuff out so that I could really figure it out. And the book itself was created after a 10-year period of working with clients and creating a modality. And what I got very crystal clear on is that what I do, and it's actually in many ways contrary to some of the NLP belief systems, is that I help people identify and dissolve the charge around root cause emotional trauma. So a lot of times people will say, well, you don't have to go back and remember it. You don't need to remember it. Maybe you remember the wrong thing, and maybe that's going to make you even worse or whatever it might be. But what I've really found is when people come up against the block and they get stuck, there's a limiting belief, there's a procrastination pattern, there's a playing small pattern, whatever is running, that there's actually a root cause emotional trauma. And it can be very acute or it could be chronic. And when you identify it, or you even get close to identifying it, and you start to understand that every behavior from that moment was an unconscious attempt to survive, there's a level of compassion that comes through. Because what happens, whenever this happens in psychology, personal development, we tend to take the words to describe the problem and we turn it into a pejorative. And so like a word like, for example, a limiting belief. Well, that was just a description of something that holds you back in your mindset. But now it's like, I have a limiting belief. I should feel guilt or shame for that. Same thing with the word like sociopath. Like a sociopath is not like a freak. Sociopath is someone who has a social pathology. They have a hard time engaging with social groups. Or psychopath, a psychological pathology. But they get turned into these sort of like pejoratives. Same thing with the word sin. And so what I noticed is that when you can understand and have compassion for the reasons why you're stuck, and there's actually a really good reason why you have a limiting belief or a procrastination pattern, or you're arguing to stay the same, because that's going to keep you safe. Well, that's a game changer. And then you can start to use modalities like NLP to get you free. But we have this antagonistic relationship with the limiting parts of ourselves that I am trying to shift into compassionate to understand, just like in functional medicine. When functional medicine came around, functional medicine says, you have high cholesterol. But there's actually a good reason why. And everything that happens in the body from the perspective of functional medicine, it's an appropriate response to an underlying dysfunctional pattern. And so the same thing is true when it comes to psychology, mental limiting beliefs, and all of these types of things. So what I help people do is identify what is that underlying emotional pattern that's dysfunctional. How have you coped? And by the way, you can stay the same. That's completely fine. But if you want to go to the next level in your life, you've got to realize that you have to start to call bullshit on the survival programming of your body. At the same time, have compassion that, yesterday's medicine has become today's poison. So I'm trying to bring a level of self-acceptance into this process with a very specific focus on root cause emotional trauma that is something that has not really been codified into a process yet. So I'm excited for functional life coaching because what it does is really help provide a very crystal clear, specific, and strategic way to identify the root cause and then creates an ability to move forward. And in many ways, functional coaching is sort of like necessary before a lot of the other modalities are there, because people can start to understand what's holding them back and be able to anticipate and move around it. So that's why it took a long time to figure out before I could bring it out, because I had to be able to talk about it in a way that was understandable, digestible. It took me about a year to be able to describe it just how I just described it to you, because it's very, esoteric in a sense.
But I suppose it's also because a lot of people like labeling things. You were saying about, you have a limiting belief, you're this. I mean, that's a challenge, isn't it? That people tend to label things, and obviously kind of like there's a process and there's a reason these things happen. Is that correct?
For sure. And from a coaching perspective, like what we're going for is ontology. Like we want an ontological experience. We want the experience of the essence of joy, freedom, whatever it is that we're going for. We want the beingness, the experience of it. And when you label things, you're out of the experience, right? So it's this like paradox of like, how can you be something if it's labeled? And so I think that one of the things I've tried to do is just bring a level of acceptance to like, yes, there's a label and there's an experience and there's a paradoxical nature to that. And the more that we can just sort of have fun with the idea that like human beings need to categorize things, but we also, if we categorize things too much, we get stopped. Pretty much every major truth is a paradox in a sense. And so we need labels, but with labels, we can't move forward. So we have to have a way to break free from those labels. But without labels, we wouldn't know the difference between like your romantic partner and my romantic partner without those types of labels. So it's a very interesting process. But I think the biggest idea is that I want to really start to have a conversation around stop ending the pejorative association with terms or situations that limit us and recognize that they're there for a good reason. That's a very important message.
Absolutely, absolutely. A couple of things I want to discuss with you. Your podcast, you seem to be having so much fun with it. I mean, it's so popular, isn't it? I mean, kind of like, my God, it's just like in iTunes. Just tell me about it. What's the idea behind it? What do you try to get out of all these amazing guests you have and the things you discuss?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I stopped it for about a month because I got confused. Like, I don't know what to do. Because honestly, when Donald Trump got elected, it was like, I'm not sure how to talk now. I don't know. Because it changed the conversation because like from my perspective, I want to reach human beings, not Republicans or Democrats. But I also want to speak about values because values transcend Republican, Democrat, any of those types of labels. So I actually stopped and said, I don't know how to talk about stuff anymore. And so what I've done is I'm going to actually be relaunching the podcast with a real specific focus, actually 2 different podcasts. One podcast will be the Power and Purpose podcast. And the purpose of that podcast is to discuss things like what we're talking about here, root cause emotional trauma, how to live a life of purpose, the coming, major existential crisis where most jobs will be replaced with artificial intelligence, how to repurpose and find your purpose when you're being replaced by machines, all those types of things. That's what that podcast is for. And I like to reach into lots of different places to find guests, whether it's, Jeff Walker, who's an internet marketing legend, or it's Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's just an incredible doctor of chiropractic, but also brain expert and, body expert. So I like to do a whole range of folks. I've had Sierra Boggess on the podcast, who's a Broadway star. So that's going to be really focused on essentially like the sort of like essentially the existential crisis that's coming where people are going to find their purpose because they're going to be replaced by essentially artificial intelligence. Second podcast, which is a different interest, is called Coachify. And Coachify is just about everything coaching because I have a real love for anything coaching, best practices around coaching, how to help coaches be better coaches, because essentially what I've determined is that the future is essentially a coach's world. And so I want to have a podcast that's really dedicated and focused to that. But essentially, I just create podcasts and content based on what I'm interested in. And I have 3 forms of ADD, so maybe I just create more of it than I should. I don't know. But I just like to have fun with it, and I like to talk to cool people, like conversations like this. Like, I enjoy this type of stuff. So there really hasn't been a specific strategy other than just like publish stuff and do cool shit.
Well, listen, you've done amazing. I'm a big fan, and keep it coming. And I really very excited about the coaching side of it. Look, I personally think that. And I know this is a Spanish English guy coming to the US, and I know quite verbal about policies and politics and Donald Trump and all that. But look, the way I see it is what, it's simply down to education, and I personally think that the more we do, and I'm saying the more people like you do, and all the other great people that are out there inspiring and changing, because you know what. We can't leave it. We can't leave anything to politicians. We can't leave anything to educators. We are the educators, because you know what? The moment people start demanding different things, the politicians will follow. It always has been. That's called right. Revolutions. And that's how all the revolutions have happened in the world. And the US is nowhere different than anyone. And it's just all down to education. So the more we do, the more we teach, the more we educate, and even going down the younger generations. I mean, I had the Expo in London. I had 2 8-year-olds speaking.
Wow.
And last year I had 2 8-year-olds and a 12-year-old. But next year I'm going to have a whole room just for kids. I mean, this kid came up to me. He's 4 years of age. And with his mum and his sister and his daughter. And 2 or 3 of the kids have written books. And this kid, he's 4 years old. And the mum says he's written a book on affirmations. I said, what? I said, come on. And I said, you talk to me right now. I said, you have a little conversation with me and you tell me what the book's about. And you're my first confirmed speaker for 2019. Man, did he give me a pitch? That was it. I gave him a
so, that's fantastic.
And
Yeah, I
that's what,
agree. I mean, if you look at what's happening in Florida with the aftermath of this Florida shooting, I mean, the students are and the children and the youth are demanding and rising up. And what's so cool, my generation was like rage against the machine, screw the system, right? This generation is like change the system, which I think is fantastic.
yeah,
So absolutely 100%. It's about education. And the other thing that I think is important to understand is that, whatever it is, Republican, Democrat, victim, abuser, black, white, racist, whatever it is, we all have root cause trauma. And so even though on a behavior level and a values level, certain behaviors, like for example, neo-Nazism, the values of the neo-Nazis or Nazis should be off the earth. It should be gone. It's like there's no purpose to it. However, the human beings who hold those values have emotional trauma that's unhealed. And that conversation transcends race, religion, gender, politics. And that's the conversation that's worth having, because when you get down to the trauma level, all of a sudden the behavior, even though, yes, we'll hold people accountable, it doesn't really solve the problem, because the problem is unhealed emotional trauma. So when we have that type of a conversation, it really levels the playing field and I think shifts the context of the conversation too.
yeah, absolutely. Well, look, a couple of things before I talk about the Expo and kind of your involvement there. There's one thing that, because I know I love a lot of the stuff you do on Instagram, and I love a lot of your quotes and stuff like that.
Oh,
And there's
awesome.
one in particular that, so love. And I was talking to Nia Peoples, who's
Mhm.
speaking at the Expo, and we were talking about love. And I love this quote because I was going to use it, and I'm using this because I want your point of view. I want to understand what you think. So we're talking about growing, and I'm always one, to say, hey, change, change, change. Welcome change. The moment we start embracing change as something great, this is an amazing opportunity out of this adversity. What's going to happen. That's when your mindset starts changing. So someone that, for example, and we were talking about love, and in order and we were talking about that sometimes in order to kind of move forward to grow, you need to release from maybe, those that are around you. And that means, untethering from those relationships that require, they are required because that's not who we longer are. And I know you've shared quite a few quotes of yours of you about that. What's your thoughts about love, moving forward, growing?
I think that's a big question and important question. And so I think it's about the definition of love, right? So there's like the Greeks had many different words for love. The way that I define love is unconditional acceptance of what is. That's what love is. And it's a choice. It's not an emotional state. It's a choice, because you can love someone even if you don't feel like it. Okay. It's important to understand that.
Yeah.
And so unconditional acceptance of what is, that then means that whatever is, you have to accept it, and you can't change things unless you accept it. And part of that is the acceptance of yourself. And so in relationships specifically, whether it's a romantic relationship or otherwise, essentially, I believe we either grow together or we grow apart. And the purpose, especially of a romantic relationship, is spiritual growth. And ultimately, I believe to heal each other's core traumas, because typically in romantic relationships, we have opposite wounding. The person who's scared of being abandoned tends to find the person who's scared of being smothered. And so we reenact those core traumas after the oxytocin and dopamine wear off. And if we can't heal it, then we'll repeat it. And also, if we get to a place where we've healed it and then that's the purpose of it, like, don't hold on just because you're supposed to hold on. If you're growing in a relationship, that's a relationship that's alive. If you're not growing, like, there's no level of success that says, man, we spent 90 miserable years together. Like, that's not success, right? And especially like when death do us part was sort of an idea, like the average lifespan was 35. Like the first person to be 125 is alive today. So it's unrealistic to expect someone to be your everything for like 100 years. Like, that's just insane thinking. So, I really like to view relationships as conduits for growth. And, that's the most important thing. And so when you stop growing, do your best to get growing again. If someone refuses to grow with you, that relationship does not serve a purpose at that point other than to be essentially a catalyst to create so much pain in your life that you have to let go of it. Other than that, there's no purpose. So growth is the name of the game.
That's very beautifully defined, and I believe it very, 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 very much. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great question.
So listen, kind of your event, and I know you've got one at the end of the year, but Claim Your Power, which is something that is obviously your book into a workshop and live, and because Tell me a little bit about that, and then I want to talk about kind of what you're going to be doing or sharing with us at the Expo.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, essentially, the Claim Your Power book is a 40-day process, and it was whittled down from a 7 to 11-day retreat process that I have. And I thought, well, there's no way someone's going to go through this in 7 to 11 days, but we can go through it in 40 days. And so what I did was we have this book experience, and because, the reality is you look at the data, most people don't read the book, they get it. So what I wanted to create was a place where a couple times a year, people who have gone through this process or who are interested in this process can come together and have an actual experience of functional life coaching and what it's like to really discover the root cause that's holding you back, and then to turn that past hurt into purpose, and to be able to move forward with a level of clarity that maybe you haven't had before. And it's also an opportunity to kind of receive additional support, because I view transforming your life similar to like a training lifestyle. People who go, I went to the seminar and it didn't work. It's like, well, you went to the gym, did it work? You know what I mean? Like, you only went once, so it's insane to think that like some seminar will change you forever. Like the gym changes you with consistency. So we also really set people up to really have success after the seminar, either with us or understanding how to maintain what they've created there, which I think is a very important training. But that's essentially what it is, because I actually believe, and you alluded to this earlier, the experience of a live event is, and I know that there's a level of bias because we both do events, but we do it because it's true. Like a live event can transform you faster than any therapy, any like one-on-one stuff once in an hour, once a week. Nothing against that stuff. I still believe that stuff. But the immersion, emotional experience, immersion with like shared support group, a tribe of people who are lifting you up, a place of focus. We can do deep work because there's so much distraction today. That's how you transform your life. And so that's what Claim Your Power Live is really all about. Is it's basically a way to kind of get all the people who didn't necessarily finish or read or follow through to get there, to have people to have this experience, and to really, when someone's traumatized or hurt, it's because they had an emotional experience associated with a painful event. We create positive experiences associated with that same painful event, and can help people break free and make more progress than they have in a decade of therapy. And we've seen that consistently. So that's what's really what it's all about. And what's the hard part for me, Bernardo, is that like I'm used to doing 7 to 11-day events. So like a 4-day event is like a paragraph for me, essentially. And so like the time that I have at Best You, I'm like, oh my God, like what? But essentially what I'll be doing there is giving my all in the time that I have to really help the folks who come have an experience of acceptance and excitement around the things that are blocking them. And hopefully, if we do our job correctly, to be able to turn those blocks, make you aware of them, and then be able to turn them into a sense of purpose and meaning, so that you're super excited to keep going and moving forward, and to really just create a really memorable and unforgettable experience, a shared experience as well. So I'm gonna do my absolute best. Brevity is not my forte, as you can see by this long answer. Like it's just not my forte. I'm a run-on sentence. What can I say?
Listen, man, you can't be amazing at everything. But listen, you've got a lot to share. It's like the person who's got a lot to love. Well,
totally.
All right. Well, listen, guys. With your permission, I'm going to share the screen so we can quickly just have a little look around and kind of like share all the different stuff that we've got going on here. And that is basically Mastin's page, which is there. So for those of you that know that Google's around, that's it. MastinKipp.com. And you can just go in there and just find out all the amazing stuff that he's doing. His blog, all about the upcoming events, his books, and everything else. So recommended to come and have a little look around here. Massive following. And then for those of you that, hey, I've never heard of this expo. What the hell is this about? You guys have been talking a long time about it. Well, so that's it. So I've been running these events for a long time. We just did one in London. So the one in London is my 3rd year. We've doubled in size every year. And I would just literally just give you a quick preview. I didn't even tell you the details, Mastin, but pretty much what happened is that we had 10 seminar rooms, 10 breakout rooms. That included also yoga meditation room. We had the inspiration zone, and the inspiration zone we're teaching salsa, curing phobias live, walking on glass, random stuff. But each of the seminar rooms are themed. So, we've got, we basically had a better world. We had a room about wealth, passion to profit. All the rooms are themed. So, there's something for everyone. And the one in London, literally, that we finished just weekend, it seems 3 months ago, but it was only last weekend. I know, it's just like, God, it's been so much work. But we had, as I said, 180 speakers, around 150, 160 exhibitors, and we actually had 12,500 people show up. So
It's incredible.
it was amazing.
It's incredible.
And the energy that's one of the things that we were talking about live events. Look, there's nothing like it. But you know what? It's just everyone that came there and everyone that comes to me, we're all like-minded. We're all sponges. We're all interested. We're all open to learning. There's good energy, kind of the energy was amazing. It was electric. Everyone was so complimentary about everyone. But it's the networking opportunities. And you know what? Sometimes there's a lot of people that probably read your books and, seen you on YouTube and stuff like that. And there's nothing like experiencing someone live.
Totally.
So that's it. So thebestviewexpo.com. You go to the US side, and the event is in Long Beach. It's in Long Beach, the 24th, 25th of March. And I call it a festival of learning. It's the Glastonbury of the minds coming to the US. And basically, we've got, as I said, all these different zones. And you can see who's speaking in all these rooms. We're going to have anything between 120 and 140 speakers, all sorts of experts. And from love, relationship, well-being, nutrition, yoga. We've got some great brands. We've got Bulletproof over there. Labs are doing some tests there as well. But these are the rooms. It's in 23 days and counting. So mindfulness and well-being, health and lifestyle, passion to profit, best for business. We've got a Spanish speaking. A los que hablen español, que vengan, que tenemos ahí hispanoparlantes también. And we've got the Empowering Women room, which was so popular, man. Oh my God, I'm really up for it. We had nearly 65, 70% of all the speakers in the UK were women. And absolutely, we need them,
100%.
We need them because, us men, I think we've been in charge long enough.
That's true. Amen. Yeah. Or a woman.
And then if I go through the speakers, which it will let me in a minute, basically, we've got an amazing lineup. We're very honored, as I said, to have Mastin there. We have Dean Graziosi. We've got Dave Asprey. And we have Nia Peoples. We've got Dave Metzler. So, for me, what's really important, Jim Quick, for me, what's really important with these events is to make sure, Marie Diamond from The Secret, what's really important for me is that we keep a variety of speakers because, personal, professional growth means many different things to many different people. As you said, it might be spirituality, it might be about learning, might be about coaching. So this is pretty much it. This is what we've got so far. But there's loads more speakers, loads more exhibitors coming. And we've got some great brands. So we're very excited. We're doing some complimentary tickets as general admission is concerned. Even if not, it's only like $15, $20 for 1 or 2 days. And then the main stage and kind of like is the VIP tickets only $145, $195. So that's pretty much it. As I said, I'm delighted to have you there. So just go to thebestviewexpo.com and then Sidebar US for anyone that wants to get involved. But you've got the links, Mastin. Share them out.
Oh yeah, and just for anyone who's watching this, this is probably going to be my only time in Los Angeles this year. So this is the time to come if you're on the West Coast, because we've done Claim Your Power Live in LA the last few years, and we're not doing it there this year. So if you're in LA and you're thinking I'm coming after this, I'm not. So get your butt out there, and it's going to be an incredible lineup of speakers. And I get asked to do a lot of different things, and I generally tend to say no more than not because I'm trying to limit the amount of travel and really be really strategic with my time. And I got to say that, the integrity that Bernardo has and this group has and the people that they've attracted and the reason why they're doing this and the folks that are involved has been so inspiring to me. That's why I'm involved with this event and I really believe in it. So I'm jazzed. And I also think that today more than ever, we have to come together regardless of our, beliefs and what separates us and have a conversation about what unites us. And that's what's so incredible about this is that environment like this, experiences like this, conversations like this are the things that are going to help change the world. And so get there, be inside an environment like this is something that I think is extremely valuable. And you just never know where your aha moment is going to come from. So I'm just super jazzed and honored to be a part of it. And I just cannot wait to be there. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, we're very, very excited. And you hit on something there, which I'm going to close with. So the idea of the best you, for me, as someone that came in, like you did, you came in attending a seminar, reading a book or whatever, is that ultimately what this industry is about, what personal professional growth is about. It has to be about making sure that we're all the best version of ourselves, because we have to. Excuse me, if you're in this planet, you have to be the best version of yourself. If not, what are you doing here? But if you do that, which we are all obliged to do, we also have to make the world a better place. So our campaign is the best you, a better world. And what I mean by that is that I was at a talk with Dr. Sylvia Earle, and she said something which was quite profound, simple, but she said that we cannot care about of what we do not know. And the bottom line is the more we know, the more we are aware of ourselves and how we can become the better version of ourselves, we will then start taking care of the world as well. So we support, so for example, there we have a Veterans Path and supporting, kind of the armed forces and PTSD. And we are also having a panel, and we're supporting A21. We did this in London as well, which is all about slavery and creating awareness about slavery and creating awareness about kind of, hey, man, there's 34 million people. Is this a problem? Yes, it is. And can we help? And if so, how can we help? Because you know what, we're all global. We all have a mobile phone. We can definitely help. And then, other causes, global warming, the sea and the plastic and the oceans and what we're doing. So a lot of that is what we discuss there. We do panels, we show documentaries, we provide these guys an opportunity to speak and share their message. And that's what we believe in. So yeah, thank you.
It's a beautiful thing. I love it. I can't wait.
Right, man. Well, listen, thank you so much. 24th, 25th of March. Looking forward to seeing you, man. Take care.
Can't wait. Bernardo, thanks a lot, man. We'll see you in LA.
Thank you, Martin.
Catch you later. Bye.